Hey, what's up, fellow Biblionauts? It's Ian with Out of This World Reader, and today I'm gonna go over all the books I got to in December. So I clocked out of school several weeks prior to finals, and that is part of the reason why I got to so many books this month. And how many, you may ask? Got to 11, which is actually quite a bit for me. This is probably one of my best reading months of the year as far as like in number and in enjoyment. So that's something to look forward to, I guess, now that like kind of finals, I don't know if they went too well or not, but I got a lot of books read. So as far as stats go, I read a total of 4 fantasy, 1 sci-fi, 2 mystery thrillers, 1 romance, 1 classic, and 2 historical fictions. Those ratings, I had 4 5 stars, which I know, that's a lot. 2 4.5 stars, 1 4 star, 1 3.75 star, 1 3.5 star, and 2 3-star books. So with so many books to go over, let's just jump right into them. So the first book I got to this month was The Faithless Hawk by Margaret Owen, which is the second book in the Merciful Crow duology. So I actually haven't seen much about this on BookTube, and that actually kind of makes me sad a little bit because I feel like this duology is slept on quite a bit. So in the first book, we're following a couple different characters that all live in this fantastical world based on a caste system that follows different types of birds. Fee, who is a crow, which is lowest on the caste system. There's Jasmir, that is the next crown prince and is a phoenix, which is the highest. And then there's Tavern, which is a hawk warrior, which is kind of like the guardians of the whole kind of fantastical world. So Jasmir and Tavern both fake their deaths in the first book, and Fee and her band of crows are called upon to take them away, and that's basically how they encounter each other. And from there, they establish a plan to kind of take down the evil queen who's trying to seize power secretly, plotting different kinds of assassinations and intrigue and just working behind the scenes to kind of take over the whole empire. The first book really left off on a cliffhanger, and in my opinion, the second book kind of just like picked off right off that steam of the first book and just like kept you going. And thankfully, like, I had just discovered this like early on in the year, and then like a couple months later, like I was able to pick up this second in the duology, so I didn't have to wait too long, and that was nice because all the stuff was like fresh in my mind, and I think it gave me more of an enjoyment that way. So in the beginning of the second book, one of the characters makes a very controversial decision that literally made me kind of want to throw some fists, and I was just constantly reading, trying to figure out maybe they'll make up for it somehow, and that just had me constantly turning pages, kind of just like wanting to figure out like what's going to happen in the end. But I won't leave any spoilers, spoiler free. So I absolutely loved just picking up this duology, especially the second book. I can't decide which one I like more, the first one or the second one, but I would recommend this to anybody that just kind of wants to read something different, because I feel like I haven't checked out much with caste systems and kind of the dealing with the different kinds of birds and their different levels of their powers and stuff like that. It was just something that I've never heard before. So I would definitely recommend this to you. So I then picked up another fantasy book, and that was A Sky Beyond the Storm by Sabaa Tahir. So I actually gave this book 5 stars, but to be honest, I should go ahead and just put this in the God tier of books. Not only like the series in general, but this book, it just has like a special place in my heart. And I can see myself like when I'm like 80 years old and my grandchildren come to me with this book, and I could just see myself like, yeah, back in my youngin' days, those were some good books. But over the 4 books, like every single character and different village and plot and everything it's just going to be like forever embedded in my mind. Like several months down the road, I'm just going to have like a random dream of some of these the different encounters and stuff like that with the characters and stuff like that. And it's in here forever. It's never gonna leave, I don't think. So one of the perspectives is following Layla, who I kind of believe is kind of just trying to save her people somehow. And then there's Elias, who is really just kind of just wanting to escape from his responsibilities and kind of be free somehow. And the last perspective that we follow that kind of shows up later on in the series is through Helena. And I kind of believe that she's kind of just trying to leave her mark somehow. So I think that the ride through this book was so amazing, and the way it ended actually kind of had me tearing up a little bit because it was over and like I don't know what else I'm gonna do. So I guess I'll just have to keep rereading them and hope that gives me that like same adrenaline rush, like my heart pumping, you know. But I think it was good to kind of just see each of the characters kind of grow in their own ways, and several of them were just like, especially in this last book, they were faced with some tough things, and the way that they just persevered and changed from those things, it just made me happy to see how they grew from the beginning and now the end. And it's just sad to say that it's over. But I won't go into much detail about this series because I feel like it's everywhere on BookTube and every different recommendation. But I would definitely recommend this to anybody just getting into YA fantasy. Like, I believe that the first book, An Ember in the Ashes, is a really good starting point for YA fantasy. And it's just the way it's written and the different worlds and stuff like that. It's so immersive, and it just really drags you into the story. And I feel like when that happens, it's just guaranteed to be a good book, especially in the beginning. Like, you start off right from the bat, just going and going, and it just keeps building and building. And after each book, you're just left with like a little bit of cliffhanger to like wanting you to pick up the next one. And it just, I could just go on about this series so much. Like, it's so good. I would recommend to anyone. But I hope Sabaa Tahir's got some plans for the future, because she has become one of my most favorite authors. And so I think in October I actually got a code for Raybearer by Jordan E. Fueco in a book box somehow, and I thought might as well just check it out before it expires. And I have no regrets picking it up and listening to it. It was absolutely amazing. So I actually gave this 4 stars, but I think since I listened to it as an audiobook, that kind of impacted my reading, because a lot of times like I'll just be like sitting there listening and then just all of a sudden just like blank out and just like forget like the last 5 minutes of what was going on. And then I'll just be like wondering, and then I'll just have to keep rewinding until I get back to where I'm supposed to be at. So I was able to get most of the story in though, and the different aspects, and from that I almost visualized like this Black Panther-esque world. And that was like, Black Panther is one of my favorite Marvel movies, and it was just so good to kind of just like visually imagine like my own version of that. And so this is following Tari Sai, who is a young girl who is kind of raised in isolation for one purpose, and that one purpose is to kill the crown prince. And when she is ready, she is entered into this competition to be a part of one of the 11 not one, the 11 council members of the crown prince. And then that kind of will set in motion her mother's plan to eventually someday kill him. But I really enjoyed like the whole landscape and the Black Panther-esque kind of characters and the way of life, and it was something I was really hoping for. And I definitely hope to pick up like the physical copy, kind of like I said, and read it that way and see if my enjoyment kind of changes a little bit, which I think it will. So the first mystery thriller book that I got to in December was actually a bit of a disappointment for me, and that was In a Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. So this ended up being a 3-star book for me, and I think the only reason that I got that was because I liked the initial plot and the kind of premise behind it. So this is taking place, I believe, in the Scottish woods somewhere, and of course they're kind of cut off, no cell service, and that kind of just sets it up for a mystery thriller. So this is following a group of different characters, 2 of them being Nora and Claire, who were best friends growing up, and then just suspiciously kind of lost connection somehow. And then Claire invites Nora to her hen, and from there things kind of progress on. To me, the synopsis really sounded similar to The Guest List by Lucy Foley, which I really enjoyed. I thought that since they both included a group of friends and being secluded somehow and following like a wedding ceremony or pre-wedding ceremony, that they would both be so good. But this one wasn't for me, unfortunately. Now, I'm not saying that you won't like it. I guess I kind of expected more of it, especially since I've read some of her other books and I really enjoyed those. So I was like, she's got this one in the bag. No, I'm sorry. So this next book really brought out my inner nerd, and I enjoyed every second that I spent with it. It received 5 stars, and that was Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. So I've always been a sucker for sci-fi and movies and video games, fantasy, comic books, you name it. And a quest following all these different aspects in a VR world, sign me up, I'll be there. So this is following Wade and his group of Gunters who are on the hunt for Holiday's mysterious egg that he left behind when he died with a set of clues. And should they find this mystery egg in the Oasis, this kind of video game VR world, that they can seize control of the Oasis, should they survive like the different challenges and the others who are also hunting for the egg as well. So like I said, I enjoyed this book so much. Like the humor in it that was spread out throughout the book, and the kind of different background on some of the different video games that I remember playing growing up, the different Atari, and just hearing all like the just different aspects of it was just, it was really what I needed in the month of December. I will say though that at sometimes the background on some of the different movies and video games had become kind of a bit boring sometimes, and that was kind of tough to get through at some points, but it was very rare. So thinking of the holidays, I picked up In a Holidaze by Christina Lauren for my December book of the month pick. And to be honest, when I first looked at it and like read the synopsis, I immediately thought of all those different Hallmark movies that my mom watched constantly, just marathoning. And I was kind of a bit skeptical to pick this up, but I thought since it's kind of surrounding holidays and needed to get into the Christmas mood, that I would pick it up. So this is essentially the book version of Groundhog Day, and it's following our main character, Mei Lin, who is reliving her family vacation to this Utah kind of cabin that her and her family and friends spend every year, and they've been doing it since she was like a little kid. So this time, her family finds out that it's going to be the last time that they get to visit the cabin. And on the way back to the airport, Mei Lin wishes to the universe to kind of show her what she wants, and then a crash happens, and she wakes up at the beginning of the whole vacation, and she's getting to relive and make new decisions and see how that impacts it. I enjoyed the humor in it. It's definitely cheesy, like there's a bunch of cheesy parts in there, but one of the main character, or not so much a main character, but one of the characters, Benny, is legit a G, and he's just like the funniest guy, and I just imagined him as this kind of like old man, kind of pimped out, you know? And it really got me into the holiday spirit. I hardly ever listen to Christmas music, and after reading this, I immediately was blasting Mariah Carey throughout like the rest of the week until Christmas. I was just blaring it every morning. So back to another fantasy book, and yet another series finished, and that was The Blood of Olympus, which is the final book in the Heroes of Olympus series by Rick Riordan, and this received 5 stars as well. So like The Ember and the Ashes, this series will also have a special spot in my blood pumper as well. I've read the Percy Jackson series growing up, but I never really continued on with this for some reason. I don't know why. And I kind of regret that, because I feel like as I got older, like I didn't enjoy them as much as if I would have continued on when I was younger. I won't go into detail about this because it is literally everywhere, and I feel like I'm the only one who hasn't read it. But I enjoyed the ride throughout the whole series, and I feel like the ending just wrapped up so well. I'm just lost for words at kind of how to explain it, because this has been the Percy Jackson and the Heroes of Olympus have kind of been a part of my life for so long, and it's just kind of like the Ember and the Ashes. It's hard to say goodbye. Next to one of the 2 historical fiction books that I got to this month, and that is The Nightingale by Kirsten Hanna, and this received 5 stars as well. And I promise I don't just give them out to every book. I swear, not gonna lie, this book had me cry several times throughout the book. I think it really depicts like some of the atrocities and horrible things that occurred during World War II that a lot of other books kind of don't mention, and it was kind of just sad to see. Like, I don't want to give away spoilers, but it's just like these characters, these 2 sisters that we follow, are just faced with situations that like are just unthinkable, and it just makes you kind of just tear up and to even think about. And so like I said, this is following 2 perspectives of 2 different French women who are kind of just trying to survive the war and impact it in a way that they can. So the reason that I gave this 5 stars is because it really impacted me in my life. The things that they faced and overcame really kind of motivated me that like times can be tough and you can really get over them. This will really have you turning the pages constantly. Like, there are several points in the book where it takes your heart out of your chest, just rips it out and just beats it up, and then throws it back in there, and then just kind of expects you to read on. And you want to kind of just keep going. But I think this is a really good book for anybody who enjoys historical fiction, especially those taking place in World War II. So jumping into the second historical fiction book that I got to, and that was All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, which was another great book that received 4.5 stars. Similar to The Nightingale, this book really depicts the horrors of war very vividly, and this is following 3 different characters, one of a young blind girl and another of a young German, not so much an officer, but a soldier, and then an older German officer. What really makes this different from The Nightingale is that there's kind of different magical elements to this. There's this stone, this mysterious stone that kind of is said to have abilities. But something that I really enjoyed in this was how the 3 different characters are kind of connected in some way. Like, it was hard to see in the beginning, but as the story progressed, like it just kept building on, and you just saw how interwoven they actually are, and it was actually kind of like heartwarming to see how they were all just impacted differently without even knowing it. I think the reason that I didn't give this one 5 stars is because I just read it coming off of reading The Nightingale, and that was so much of a roller coaster ride, and I was kind of expecting this to be so much similar in the way that those ups and downs are going and kind of just dragging with my emotions. And don't get me wrong, this book really does that as well. Like, there's several sad parts in this is throughout the book, and I was just kind of, I wasn't expecting more of it. The Nightingale was just so hard to kind of match. It was just really good. But this is still an outstanding book, and I would recommend it to anybody who likes historical fiction as well. In the attempt to try and put myself in even more of the holiday spirit, I thought I might as well pick up the classic Holidaze. So this is a pretty short Christmas classic that I've actually never read. I haven't even seen any of the movies or anything. I just kind of like knew the basic background that 3 ghosts kind of visited and changed his mind and kind of made him out of this grumpy old man. And I don't have very much experience with Charles Dickens and classics in general, and I think that really impacted my enjoyment on this, because I felt at times like it was just hard to keep reading, even though it's so short. I just, for some reason, like I was like dreading it. Like, I kind of just wanted it to be over, and it was still like, there were still parts of it that I enjoyed, and I think I ended up giving this 3 stars. And it was just because, like, I think because I've never picked up classics before, that this is kind of the reason that I didn't enjoy it. So I'm hoping in the new year and in the future to pick up more classics, and then maybe next Christmas pick this one up again and see how I feel about it then. And the final book that I got to in the month of December was another mystery thriller, and that was Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. So I think Agatha Christie has really become one of my favorite mystery thriller writers, and I've only read 2 of her books. I know. I read And Then We Were None, and then this one, and I really enjoyed both of them. And because there's not much action in these books. It's all like solving the mystery, but her just flow in the writing and her ideas are so unique, especially in that time frame, like that she was writing. Like, they're just so unique in her ideas. Like, I just want to know where she came up with these. So I think that's why she's becoming one of my favorite authors, is because just some of her ideas are so unique, and I hope to get to more in the future. I think I plan on reading Death on the Nile in January. So this whole plethora of characters kind of trapped in the snow in this tiny train, and Hercule just slowly starts to solve this mystery. And it occurs all in like I want to say like a day. Like, the murder happens, and then the next day he's already working to solve it, and then by the end of the day it's done. And that's why it's a pretty short book, and it's a quick read. And I really like that, because I feel like a lot of mystery thrillers that I've got to in the past kind of drag on, but this one kind of is so short that it keeps you turning the pages. But I really wanted kind of more. I wanted something to kind of get my blood pumping, and that's why I didn't get so much of a higher rating, is because I enjoyed that premise of being trapped on the train in the snow, and I just wanted that fight scene or something. But it was still a good book, and I would still recommend it to those kind of looking for a quick mystery read. So I finally got through all those books, and I gotta say that this has probably been one of my best months in enjoyment. And it was still kind of sad to say that I finished some of those series that really left an impact on my life. But that's the good thing about books, is that there's always more coming out. You just gotta be on the lookout at all times. So I want to thank you for watching this video. Please let me know down below what your thoughts are on some of these books and your plans for 2021. Now that 2020 is in the past, we can already start looking forward to 2021, so let me know what your plans are. I will also leave links to my different social media accounts and all the books mentioned in this video. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on another adventure. And as always, this is Mission Control logging off. Go forth and have a good day.